With us, managing partner of KL Attorneys, Fannie and Freddie. Matt, first of all, thanks for coming back. Fannie and Freddie on the hot seat again. Although, I can't say again because nobody ever really likes to talk about these guys because they seem to escape financial regulatory reform and they're booked basically off balance sheet, so we're not, they're not included in our debt. So I'm not really sure if really anything's ever going to happen.
Well, there are so many special interests that benefit from having them. I'm not sure anything's going to happen either. But nonetheless, the rumor is that the Obama administration wants to somehow privatize the companies again and hand them back to the private sector. But he's already talking about replacing them with something else. As it stands right now, I mean, they make up 2/3 of the mortgage market. So if you were to pull Fannie and Freddie or cut back on the amount of mortgages they're buying, that would obviously affect the mortgage market, which would affect the real estate market. So, look, the taxpayers are on the hook for trillions of dollars in loans, and these companies are hemorrhaging money on a quarterly basis. So we have to do something, but no one really wants to because they're afraid that the real estate market's going to get even worse than it is now.
We're showing the numbers right now. We're basically in the hole, $150 billion between the two of them. Taxpayer assistance since 2008. You're right. Nobody wants to help these guys a second longer. At the same time, we've also spent millions of dollars on fraud because of the executives. Like, it's for any good that someone's trying to tell you Fannie and Freddie do, there's so much more bad on the other side. So why? Why not cut the cord? If the housing market has to take a dip, let it.
I fully agree with you. I think that we have to let the private sector come in and determine what the real risk is involved in these mortgages and allow the private sector to give out mortgages to those people that they think can qualify for them and can put down a sizable down payment. Essentially right now with Fannie and Freddie, the taxpayers are subsidizing the mortgage market and the real estate market. My fear, though, is that banks and realtors and everyone who's benefiting from the real estate market, they're going to fight this thing tooth and nail, and they're big lobbyists. So I guess you could say I'm skeptical about these politicians and their will to actually do away with these entities and allow the private sector to come in and do what it should be doing.
Well, and you can understand why, right? I mean, why would you give a loan? There's no incentive to give a loan if there's no backing by the government. Right now, it's much easier for me to say, I'll give you a loan knowing that 90% of it is backed by either Fannie or Freddie. So,
yeah,
right?
Absolutely. The banks they love it. I mean, they don't want to go to actually having to, do these loans themselves and have to sell them on the, in the open market because there may not be any buyers for them. And I think that's the fear, is the private sector going to step up and actually start purchasing these mortgages in the open market? And I think the question is not like Fannie and Freddie's doing, and so that's going to affect the market. And I think you're right. People don't want to suffer the consequences, especially our politicians. They don't want to suffer the consequences of, doing away with those two entities.
The amazing part to me, though, is that it's not included in our total national debt. So somehow or another, I mean, I don't even know what we're calling it if we're not calling it debt. It is a debt that we need to repay.
Absolutely, but, Tracy, either is the money we owe Social Security.
Yeah, you're right.
That's off the books.
You're
I mean, there are a lot of entitlements that are off the books. So, we talk about a $4 trillion deficit. That's really not the entire deficit. I've heard estimates as high as $24 trillion when you include Social Security and all the off-the-book debt that we have. So I fully agree with you. I think we need to get real honest with everyone out there, and we really need to rethink home ownership in this country. Should owning a home be some type of entitlement? I don't think it should be. There's nothing wrong with renting a property. If you don't have the credit or you don't have the down payment to buy a house, then you can rent a house. What's wrong with that? Why have we gotten to a place in this country where everyone has to own a home?
Matt, as a homeowner, I would give my left arm to rent so that I could give up half the responsibility or 3/4 of the responsibility. Give it up. I don't even want it. I understand completely, but I do think, to your point, we created this notion that it's almost like you're not successful unless you own something. And
it's crazy.
Right? And it is an awful way to look. Now, you're down in Florida. What's going on down there? Is the housing market changing at all, or is it still really struggling?
It's really struggling down here, and a big part of that, and I think it's an indication of the rest of the country, is that unemployment's high. There aren't a lot of good jobs out there, and that really is what stabilizes and improves a real estate market. People have to have a good job, they have to have good credit, and they have to be able to put down a down payment. So down here in Florida, our real estate market, I don't care what anyone says, is still struggling. Homes are still, in my opinion, a little overpriced, and we're going to see housing values continue to go down throughout 2011 and 2012.
So then are you in the camp that getting rid of Fannie and Freddie would actually make it worse?
I think it would make it worse. The real estate market would get worse. I don't see any scenario if you get rid of Fannie and Freddie where the real estate market would improve. I think eventually it would sort itself out, but in the short term it would get worse.
Yeah, sometimes, though, I think it's all right to take your medicine, take a little pain, and move on forward. Matt Englert, managing partner of KEL Attorneys down in Orlando. I hope it warmed up for you guys down there. It was freezing for a while.
Yeah, it's a little nippy today, but I think this weekend we're expecting pretty good weather. But it's nowhere near as cold as it is where you are. It
was 12 degrees in my car this morning.
That sounds like fun.
Isn't it, though? It was a laugh a minute on the drive-in. Matt, you have a great weekend. Come back.
Hey, you too. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Matt. Matt Englert, managing partner of KEL Attorneys. We're going to take a break. When we get back, actually, we are going to talk about some crazy Valentine's Day presents, because believe it or not, it is on Monday. I'm wearing my red today, though, in boycott. And an internet poker player. And why, because we're so darn broke, we don't legalize it. It's my question. We'll be right back.